Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is Thursday, the 29th of February, 2024, and these are the stories that we will try to decipher during the course of our show. We'll begin with the session of the National Assembly that was held today. 302 members were sworn in out of a total strength of 336. Notable politicians who were sworn in include, of course, PMLN Supremo, former Premier Nawaz Sharif, former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, former President Asif Ali Zardari, People's Party Chairperson, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, Jamiat Ulema Islam, Fazlur Rehman Group Chief Maulana Fazlur Rehman, amongst others. 3 Senate members also resigned from the upper house of Parliament and joined the National Assembly. That include Nuzhat Siddiq, Abdul Ghaffur Haidari and Yusuf Raza Gilani Saab. Some of the leaders from the opposition joined hands with the SIC, include Barrister Gohar Khan, Ali Muhammad Khan, Umar Ayub Khan and Sher Afzal Marwat. It was also the comeback for PMLN Supremos Nawaz Sharif Saab to Parliament after a period of 7 years, because he had stepped down as the Premier following his disqualification in 2017. The House has now been adjourned to meet again tomorrow at 10, when the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly are going to be elected. And of course we know who the Treasury benches and who the opposition have put forward as the names for the Speaker: Ayaz Sadiq and Ghulam Mustafa Shah as the candidates for Speaker and Deputy Speaker. And opposition benches have named Ahmed Doga for Speaker slot, Junaid Akbar for Deputy Speaker. And of course, as far as the Prime Minister election for the Prime Minister is concerned, that is going to happen this coming Sunday. That has been officially notified by the National Assembly Secretariat. The candidates can submit their nomination papers till Saturday at 2 p.m. And of course, Shehbaz Sharif is the candidate by the Treasury members for the slot of the Prime Minister of Pakistan. What are the challenges that lie ahead for Pakistan and this very government? Economy being at the top of the agenda is going to be part of our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns day 146 of the Palestine-Israel tensions, the conflict, this war that has been continuing. The Hamas and Fatah representatives are to meet in Moscow today to discuss the creation of United Palestine government and Gaza rebuilding. This has been confirmed by the Russian news agency. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, more than 70,400 injured in Israel's military offensive since the 7th of October. And this continues to go on. The World Health Organization chief says Gaza has become a death zone. 81 people, ladies and gentlemen, have been massacred by Israel while they were waiting for aid to be delivered, and scores have been injured in this very attack, which many organizations call to be a war crime. But will Israel be finally reprimanded for all these war crimes or the genocide that it has been perpetrating? That is a big question mark that we'll try to decipher during the course of our second segment. Then we will, ladies and gentlemen, be talking about prehistoric rock carvings that have been found at the Amar Bhasha Dam site and now will be digitized. WABDA has signed a 46.5 million cultural preservation agreement for this digitization and 3D modeling of these rock carvings that have been found at the Amar Bhasha Dam site. Then we are going to talk about Prince Harry, ladies and gentlemen, who has lost his case against the British government over his security in the United Kingdom. Now, this was a challenge that he had put to the United Kingdom government on Wednesday over a decision to change the level of his personal security when he visits the country. He had, of course, launched legal action, but of course he has been told that he will no longer be given the same degree of publicly funded protection when he is in Britain or the United Kingdom. Finally, we'll be talking about China, ladies and gentlemen, the People's Republic of China, that says it aims to put the first Chinese on the moon before the year 2030. China says it aims to put the first Chinese on the moon, which has been confirmed by CCTV, which is the Chinese state broadcaster. China is also going to coordinate and promote the application and development of a space station and manned lunar exploration this year. This has also been confirmed by the Chinese state media. So interesting developments as far as Chinese aerospace is concerned. Let's begin with our first segment, and that of course concerns what has been happening on the political front, whether it be the elections, whether it be the swearing in of the members of the National Assembly, and also the provincial assemblies that has occurred. But of course all eyes are on the National Assembly. Tomorrow will be the day when the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker will be elected, and Sunday will be the day when the Prime Minister will be elected. We've been joined by Javed Siddiq, who is a senior analyst in the studios, and we'll also be joined by Salman, Executive Director Prime, online to talk about the different challenges that the government has in store for it. Ali Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. I can see you in the window right here. Welcome to the show. Let's begin with Javed Saab. Javed Saab, 16th National Assembly, 302 members are sworn in. Raja Pervez Ashraf Saab, who is the outgoing National Assembly Speaker, says that the session was to begin at 10 a.m., but there was some ruckus from the sides, and of course there were and due to that also there was a delay as far as that is concerned. PMLN leader Ayaz Siddiq, and I'd like to quote you on that because my first question concerns that. He says he was asked whether the House would be able to function with a large opposition. He said, as an answer to that the opposition and the government need to work together as they were wheels of the same car. But when you see on the day of the swearing in unruly behavior from the sides, what is your expectation? Why, in your point of view, can't the opposition be part of strengthening the parliamentary politics for the betterment of the country?
Well, I think this has happened before, because I remember the year 1990 when Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was he took oath and became the Prime Minister of Pakistan after winning elections. And the then opposition was also very noisy, and they were agitating and they were raising slogans. But finally, they understood that democracy can work only when the government and opposition are hand in hand with each other. If they keep opposing every move of the government, if they become ruckus, as you have said, if they come in with agitation and that kind of attitude, democracy cannot function. So it is the primary duty, as Ayaz Siddiq has rightly pointed out, that they are the two sides of the same coin. I mean, without opposition, the government cannot function, and both have the heavy responsibility to discharge to make democracy function and work, and the assembly and the elected people and the government to deliver. If they keep obstructing and create hindrances on the way of the government, and functioning of the government is disrupted, the loss will be borne by the people of Pakistan.
But you know, you talk about loss borne by the people of Pakistan. I want to understand, when Ayaz Siddiq Sahab also says there is a need for national reconciliation and hopes that the opposition will engage in a positive debate. At the same time, we see a letter that is being sent to the IMF by the opposition, written by its saying and raising questions on the role that the opposition wants to play, and of course also putting into question the whole future of Pakistan-IMF relationship. Do you feel destabilizing the government and the nation to bring it to default should be the aim of the opposition? Don't you feel, I mean, we all know they have also tried it beforehand. There is ample proof as far as the conversation is concerned regarding that very thing. At that time also the IMF did not pay heed, but whether they pay heed or not, it's the basic premise of it all, sending a letter to the IMF to try to destabilize the government because you are not in power. Before I go, I'd like to add something else. Shouldn't they be learning a lesson from their 3.5 years of governance, the economic misadventures that followed, and shouldn't they be working with the current government to bring Pakistan out of all kinds of challenges, whether they be economic, political or others?
I think the PTI, the opposition, which is now SIC, didn't learn lessons from the past, because they made huge mistakes as far as the politics of Pakistan is concerned. Democracy cannot function in that manner, in that fashion. You have to have a positive attitude and a positive role in a democratic dispensation.
Of course.
Unfortunately, when in 2022, when they were removed from power, through a vote of no confidence, which is quite a democratic practice. They didn't accept it, and they took it as a sort of insult to them, and then they said that this was a conspiracy hatched and engineers by
they could have
foreign
remained
powers.
in the opposition, you know, and played a constructive role in the opposition.
At that time, at that juncture, some of the senior elements within the PTI and outside, the sympathizers of PTI advised the then Prime Minister, the ousted Prime Minister, to sit in the opposition, on the opposition benches, and behave as a responsible opposition. You will get your chance again. But unfortunately, they didn't pay any heed to it, and they chose to resign from the assemblies, come to the streets, and we saw a complete failure of their strategy. Similarly, some of the elements, the experienced politicians who were supporting the then Prime Minister and former Prime Minister Imran Khan, and they asked him and they advised him not to dissolve the Punjab and KP assemblies unnecessarily. It was unwarranted to dissolve these assemblies because they lost their parliamentary strength. And so these big mistakes which they made, blunders which they committed, they had to pay a big price for them. But still, I think they have not learned any lessons, and this is very unfortunate.
But I really hope that some kind of better sense prevails.
It prevails. And now that they have an opportunity to prove that they are responsible politicians, that they are a responsible opposition, that they want to play a positive role in basically strengthening democracy and democratic institutions, then this is the time for them to prove that they are not irresponsible, that they are not, they don't follow any negative practices.
They can work constructively. I mean,
Exactly.
opposition, they can do their opposition, but when it comes to important matters that pertain to state and the nation, like economy, like governance, they should work together.
They know it very well, that the problem number one of Pakistan today is economy.
All right. Now, speaking of economy, we've got Ali Salman, Executive Director, Prime, with us online. Ali, yesterday there was a regular press briefing in the US. The US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller was asked about this very letter that I was asking Javed Saab about. And he replies, as the US knows, Pakistan needs $2 billion alone in March to be able to avoid economic breakdown. This was the question that was asked. He said, I'll just say with respect to the IMF that we support Pakistan's effort to break free from the vicious cycle of debt, international financing, that the long-term health of Pakistan's government and economy was crucial for the country's stability, and that Pakistan's new government must immediately prioritize the economic situation because the policies over the next several months will be crucial to maintaining economic stability for Pakistanis, urging Pakistan to continue working with the IMF and other financial institutions. How important, Ali, is political stability and a consensus on major issues like economy in order to make Pakistan move forward?
Thank you so much, Omar, for bringing me to the show and raising this extremely important question. I think the political stability is a precondition for economic growth, for long-term economic growth. And various countries have different paths to it. In a country like Pakistan, which is a democratic country and democracy is maturing over years, we should expect to see, sometimes polarized results as a result, as a consequence of elections, as we have seen. And there could be governments with heavy majorities, sometimes with split mandate. So these challenges, I think, will remain part and parcel of our democratic journey. Therefore, I think what we need is, for political stability, is a kind of maturity of politicians and other institutional stakeholders towards economic policy. And when I say that, we need to understand that while each political party does have the mandate to pursue its priorities according to the mandate it has received, but what should matter for us is the economic governance of the country, the economic institutions. And I'll give you, one quick example. In countries where we have, like Japan, for instance. They had, the governments have been changed over the years, but the economic system has evolved with the time. Unfortunately, we have not seen that in Pakistan. 10 years ago, we had this major opportunity and with the name of CPAC, but in just 4 or 5 years, this was rolled back. And so when you see these experiences, the investors, both locally and foreign, lose confidence in a country, and that's why we were, during the caretaker government, all our friendly countries and international institutions pinned hope on an election outcome which will lead to stability, and they stalled their negotiations with the caretaker government. So now it is a big challenge. The clear majority exists for any political party, and I really hope that the political parties and institutions of economic governance can come together and can create some rules of the game for next few years, so that country continues to build on some of the successes, I would say, which the caretaker government has achieved.
All right, Ali, Pakistan has committed through the SBA and, of course, in the past as well, through programs that it has completed, and it has not completed. The only program that it completed of the IMF was between 2013 and 2016 out of all the different programs. Pakistan has committed to IMF supported reforms for monetary policy and accelerating structural reforms. How important is for the opposition to work with the government on maybe creating a charter of economy? Are you optimistic on that front? Do you feel there is some light at the end of the tunnel as far as a consensus is concerned?
Well, as you know, Omar, our think tank and many other institutions in Pakistan, including PIDE and other institutions, have floated different proposals for evolving consensus on Charter of Economy before the elections. Our experience was that political parties were largely not interested, despite of lip service being paid to signing such a charter of economy. And therefore, I think I am not very optimistic, to be honest, as far as the charter of economy or evolving a consensus among politicians is concerned. However, as you mentioned, I think for all practical reasons, IMF framework and IMF program is a sort of charter of economy which the government has to abide by, at least in the short term, if we want stability. Because in the past we have seen, in 2021, we have seen the deviation from the program led to a situation where country faced tremendous fiscal pressure. So I think it is important for our discipline, but it is also important for our own institutions, for think tanks, for universities to come forward and come to a program with IMF that what should be the priorities. I think before actually political consensus, frankly, which I don't see happening, what we need to strive is an intellectual consensus, a consensus between think tanks, political parties, business communities, that what kind of proposals, what kind of reforms do we want. That will give a good message to IMF, to other international financial institutions, and to the government that, look, there are serious institutional stakes involved, and that will then lead to the program, which is not talking about just stability, because we have seen that we have achieved stability in the past. The exchange rate, for instance, has remained stable for last about roughly about 6 months. We need growth, right? We need in an environment where corporates are ready to reinvest in Pakistan. We need an environment where international companies come back to Pakistan. We need an environment where CPAC Phase 2 with the industrial cooperation can start. So that is the direction which we need to take. We should definitely, the IMF package program will be a part of it, but we need to take an active part in the discussion, and I hope that the government invites such discussion also. It should not be just a closed door discussion between IMF team in Islamabad and the Q block. It should be a broad, inclusive, and transparent process where we can all be a part of this discussion for country's economic future.
All right, Ali. Coming back to the studios and of course Javed Siddiq Saab, I'd like to understand some of the lacunae that happened between 2018 and 2020, and I'd like your point of view on that. The government did not, at that time, did not grasp the political economy of reforming the system. There were many reasons that it did not work well, including a cluttered agenda, conflicting messages, lack of acumen, coordination, and lack of coordination amongst the cabinet colleagues, difficulties in implementation of a lethargic system marked by poor political and economic management. Are these lessons learned for this new government that is going to come into power? Will it be able to take the bold steps in order to not repeat mistakes that have happened in the past?
Well, that is the expectation of our people, that the new government would not repeat the same mistakes which were made by the previous government, that is 2018 and 2022. I think the former Prime Minister himself admitted that for at least one good year,
2 years, he said.
2 years, yes, they were unable to understand the real problems of Pakistan, particularly the economic problems and the dimensions of this economic problem that we were facing. So I think lack of experience, lack of focus, lack of direction, these were the issues, and they were unable to manage the economy of Pakistan. They made very huge promises to the people of Pakistan.
That they couldn't fulfill.
That they were unable to do it because they thought they said that they will be creating almost 10 million jobs and 5 million houses for the people, and that will change the landscape of Pakistan. That did not happen. These promises were empty promises, and they were unable to carry them out because they didn't have the resources, and they pinned hopes that the overseas Pakistanis and some other sectors will come forward to finance these fantastic projects, but that did not happen. So I think this government is well aware of the fact that the country is facing the economic crisis. The people are crying under the inflation. The prices are going up. International situation is also not very favorable because the oil prices and the food supply chains are disrupted. And so in view of that, the new government will try to create an environment in which the prices come down, the inflation pressure is also brought down, and also some relief is given to the people.
All right. Javed sir, my next question is an amalgam of two questions, and I'd like a short answer because we are the time is racing by us as far as are concerned. The PMLN Supremo Nawaz Sharif Saab yesterday was talking in the parliamentary meeting of the PMLN. He talked about the next 2 years in power of the government that are going to be challenging because of economic and political instability. He said that the job should be to tame inflation and improve governance. How can you do that? What is there? I mean, what kind of maneuvering needs to be done in order to overcome this?
First thing that they need to do is to reach out the opposition and try to bring about some kind of reconciliation, so that the temperatures low down in the parliament and both government and opposition work together. And the focus should be to reform the economy. The international advisors, the IMF, the World Bank, and other international experts have been advising us to take a course to reform the economy. Pakistan's economy needs huge reforms. Power sector and other sectors, tax system, all these things, they need reforms so that the growth is increased. That could give impetus to our growth.
To try to initiatives that could bring in foreign direct investment, basically.
Exactly. So I think the first thing should be a reconciliation between government and opposition, bring down the temperatures and create an environment in which the foreign and local investors come in and start investing in Pakistan. That is our need. That's one. Two, I think Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, the head of the PMLN, is well aware of the fact that the economic management and the governance are the two very important issues. And that is why he has mentioned them. I think for these two objectives, to achieve these two objectives, there has to be an environment of peace, stability, and political stability, especially because if opposition remains in this form or in this shape, up in arms and up in sleeves, then that environment cannot be created, and that will be a big loss to our people of Pakistan.
All right. Ali, you said that, we need to go out and you reach out to the opposition. Ayaz Siddiq Sahab has said that Saad Rafiq and himself will reach out to the leader of each party to invite them for a grand dialogue in the larger interest of the country. Just wanted to, let you know as far as your question on reconciliation is concerned. Structural reforms, relation with the IMF, other reforms process, continuity of the reform process, other decisions taken during the caretaker government, and the relationship with lenders like IMF, AIIB, World Bank and others are huge challenges. If you were to construct a 3-point agenda or a 4-point agenda for the government, what would that entail?
Right, Anish, quickly, I would say three things. So first of all, I think to bring down the prices, I like to mention the importance of opening the trade, both with India and also with Iran, for especially oil, because right now about 20% of oil is being smuggled from Iran. So why don't we formalize this trade and get cheaper oil? Also opening the trade with India for fruits and vegetables at least would bring the prices down in a significant part of the country. So that is a quick win. Secondly, I would say that we need to really focus on tax reforms and bring down the tax rates so that we can have more people joining the tax base and also provide an incentive for corporatization. So this should be announced in the next budget. And thirdly, we should continue privatization with an aggressive timeline so that we can see the results of the privatization, or also stop spending the hard-earned money of the taxpayers on the wasteful spending by these state-owned enterprises.
All right. Thank you very much, Ali Salman, to have joined us and to have given us your output as far as what needs to be done by the upcoming government as far as the challenges that lie ahead for it are concerned. And of course, we'll be contacting you on a very regular level as to highlight these very economic challenges and how to surmount them. And thank you very much, Javed Siddiq Sahab, as well, to have joined us in the studio, to have talked to us about the need for political reconciliation and the need to working together on consensus, especially on important issues that concern the country, whether it be good governance, whether it be economy, whether it be the reforms process that needs to be implemented in letter and spirit. But the opposition and the government or the treasury are just two sides of the coin. They need to work together, or both, as we say, we can't clap with a single hand, we need both hands to clap. So these are the two hands that need to work together in order to stabilize our country. Thank you very much, Javed Sahab, to have joined us. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns day 146 of the conflict between Israel and Palestine. Today, Hamas and Fatah representatives are to meet in Moscow to discuss the creation of a united Palestine government. More than 30,000 Palestinians have also been killed, more than 70,000 injured as far as this conflict is concerned in Gaza. The World Health Organization chief says that Gaza has become a death zone. Health and humanitarian situation has worsened. Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 25 people in the Nuseirat and Burej camps in central Gaza. Overnight, 2 hospitals in northern Gaza have no fuel to run generators as they treat children suffering from malnutrition and dehydration. The Ministry of Health in Gaza has also reported that 2 children have died of dehydration and malnutrition at the Al-Shifa hospital. The number of Palestinians I've already told you. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has also said that mob rule is replacing democratic rule in the United Kingdom as politicians face abuse for airing their views on Israel's war on Gaza, leaving some fearing for their safety. In the European Parliament, a Swedish member spent most of her allotted time at the EU parliamentary session in silence to protest against Israel's war on Gaza. We have been joined to talk about this very, very important issue that we are highlighting on a very regular level by Osama Muhammad Nazzal. He's a Palestinian journalist and he joins us from the center of where it is all happening. Osama, thank you very much to have joined us, but I'll begin with the most crucial element that has hit Gaza, and that is the 81 Palestinians, at least 81 Palestinians waiting for food at the Al-Rashid Street who have been killed, more than 700 wounded after being shot at by Israeli forces in Gaza. Israeli airstrikes and shelling have also killed at least 30 people in separate attacks in the Nusayrat, Bureij and Khan Yunis camps in Gaza. In your point of view, Osama, is this genocide going to continue unabated while the world looks in silence?
As you mentioned, my dear, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your program. Really, what's happening today in the Palestinian territories is catastrophic. Pardon. That it is clear that Israel is exacting a very heavy price from the Palestinian people. That if you are looking for bread, if you are looking for food, you are going to face death. And this what's happening in the Gaza Strip today, as you mentioned, that when people, because of the starvation, because of the hunger, because of the thirst that they have been going through for weeks, mainly in the northern part of Gaza Strip, when they saw the plane airdropping humanitarian aid, they ran to that place in order to have some bread for their children, for their babies. But the Israeli tanks were waiting for them and bombarded them and killed over 150 of them and injured many, many hundreds. This is the catastrophe that the modern history of humanity is experiencing today, has never been experienced. This is the only state on earth, which is the Zionist state of Israel, that is weaponizing food and starving people to death. Just yesterday, 7 Palestinian babies died of dehydration because they have no clean water, because they have no milk and no nutrients at all. So malnutrition is the lethal weapon that Israel is using today against the Palestinians in Gaza, alongside the bombs and the missiles that don't stop falling over the civilians and the children and the women of the Gaza Strip. This is the disaster, this is the catastrophe that the Palestinians are going through before the eyes, and sorry to say that, before the eyes of those who call themselves free world. People are just watching the children of Gaza dying. They are watching the Palestinian women in Gaza picking up the bits and pieces of the bodies of their babies and children who are targeted every minute and every second by the Israeli missiles and the Israeli bombs. Though Israel knows they are civilians. But that is the mindset of the Zionist regime. Kill and kill and kill.
Not only that, Osama, the fact is also that whenever all these injured, I mean, I'll just take this example of what happened in Gaza. 700 wounded, they are taken to hospitals. There's no medication. There's no proper supply. The health facilities have been suspended. The hospitals have been bombarded. They are not in a state to treat these injured. So what will happen at the end of the day? Most of the injuries will become critical. A lot of them will die. And of course, and this is a cycle that is continuing on and on, as you yourself said, as the world looks at it. I come to a question. I'd like your point of view on it. Do you feel humanity died on the 7th of October last year? Do you feel it is preferential on who, for certain nations, on what should be called human rights and what shouldn't be?
Once again, I'm sorry to say that all the humanity on this planet, all the humanity of our world is failing the test that Gaza put them at. Now, nobody is surprised here in Palestine that Israel is committing these crimes because we have been living under Israeli occupation for decades, and our forefathers lived this situation. They were expelled from their land. Killing and death made by Israel has become like a norm, a feature, a landscape of the Palestinians' life. And at the start of the Israeli genocide campaign, the Israeli Minister of War, Gallant, said that we will not allow into Gaza any food, any water, any medicine, which means, and any fuel, which means that they have a plan to decimate Gaza and to exterminate the existence of the Palestinians in Gaza and also here in the West Bank, where I'm speaking from. You know, just 3 hours before you called me, the Israeli forces were storming into the Palestinian refugee camp of Jenin, and they began shooting in every direction and injured one young man, and he is in a very critical condition now. His situation is not stable at all. So Israel has a plan to end the existence of the Palestinians and to expel them from the remaining part of their homeland. So Palestinians were expelled in 1948 in the Palestinian Nakba, and now in 2024, the second Nakba, which is much worse than the first one. But what is surprising is that the international community is watching. That is the disaster that the Palestinians are facing today, that they are abandoned to suffer alone, despite the fact, by the way, that Israel threatens the security of all the Arab countries in the Middle East. But the Palestinians' fate is to be on the front line all the time. Now, the Palestinians are facing death every second and every minute, and they have no savior from their own brothers. My dear, the people in Gaza are starving, and Rafah crossing, the crossing between Egypt and Gaza, is closed. What justification the closure of this crossing does have? No justification. So the disaster is big, the catastrophe is big. The Palestinians are defending Palestine, but at the same time they are defending Al-Quds, Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the holy site not only of the Palestinian people, but of all the Muslims around the world. And at the same time, the Christians, we are talking about the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Church of the Sepulchre, and we listened to the statement of the Israeli Minister of Home Security, Ben Gvir, saying that we won't allow Muslims to get into Al-Aqsa Mosque during the holy fasting month of Ramadan, which is a few weeks away from now. So the people
Osama,
of Palestine,
I'd like to understand, you mentioned Rafah. I'd like to understand there is a huge offensive that is being prepared by the Zionist regime in Israel for a ground offensive in Rafah. The human rights chief of the United Nations, Volker Turk, says the prospect of this assault will take the nightmare being inflicted on the people in Gaza into a new dystopian dimension. And he said he fails to see how such an operation could be consistent with the binding provisional measures that were issued by the International Court of Justice. He also said many incidents amount to war crimes by Israeli forces. What's your comment on that? The role of the International Court of Justice, the Rafah ground offensive, if it happens, and its repercussions, and the war crimes that Israel is implicated in, as well as the genocide.
And this goes in accordance with the Zionist regime plan from the start of the war. It is not a crime of war only, it is genocide. And that was the statement of the top international judicial body, the ICJ, that warned Israel of committing genocide. And in response to that warning and the temporary measures that the court ordered, Israel responded not only by bombarding the Palestinians, by starving the Palestinians. Now the people in the north are dying because of starvation and of thirst and of the diseases resulting from that. And the 1.6 million Palestinians who were displaced from their houses, from their homes in the north, the middle, and the city of Khan Yunis in Gaza, and they were all gathered in the concentration camp. It is a concentration camp of Rafah. And the aim of that was to force them to the Sinai desert, to the Egyptian desert. And if they don't go to the Sinai desert, if they are not forced to migrate and to be expelled, Israel is going to commit heinous massacres against them. Because each bullet, I'm not talking about each bomb or rocket, each bullet fired in Rafah is going to kill dozens of people, because we are talking about the most overcrowded city on a planet these days, as its original people 200,000, but today we have 1.6 million people in it, and they are living in plastic tents that don't protect them against bullets and bombs. So,
Osama,
yes,
in all of this, the need is for a truce, the need is for a ceasefire, and of course, a two-state solution, or solution that benefits the people of Palestine. US expresses optimism over this truce or ceasefire ahead of the holy month of Ramadan. But Palestine says there's a long way to go before securing a potential ceasefire deal. But at the same time, the Palestinians have been urged to march to Al-Aqsa Mosque at the beginning of Ramadan, which raised the stake of negotiations for a truce in Gaza. Are you optimistic for a truce? Are you optimistic for a ceasefire?
We are talking today about 108,000 Palestinians killed, injured, and missing. Isn't that enough for having a permanent ceasefire? After all these casualties, after all these massacres, the United States, Britain, and other Western countries are still talking about pause in fire, are still talking about a truce, but they are not talking about ending the Israeli war and the Israeli genocide. And we all painfully watched the American president yesterday, Joe Biden, eating ice cream and talking about pause in fight, about temporary ceasefire, as if Palestinians have the right not to live under Israeli bombs during the fasting month of Ramadan. But after Ramadan, it is permissible, it is allowed to kill and to bomb them out. It is farcical, my dear. What is demanded is permanent ceasefire and a political solution for the root cause of all the violence and the wars and the problems that we have in this region, which is ending the Israeli occupation. We don't count hope on the American administration or on the Western governments. We don't allow the Zionist regime to kill our brothers in occupied Palestine. This is what we expect from the Arabs and from the Muslims and from the free people around the world. And we all send our condolences here, Palestinians, to the family of the American soldier who set himself on fire, self-immolation, in a protest of his government support for the Zionist regime and the genocide against Gaza.
Thank you very much, Osama Muhammad Nazzal, to have joined us from Palestine and to have given us the update as far as this conflict is concerned. And inshallah ta'ala, the day will come, I'm sure, when myself and yourself will both be praying at the Al-Aqsa Mosque together. We hope for that day to come very soon. Thank you very much, Osama. Let's come to our last three stories very quickly. The first is on Wabda, that is going to digitize the prehistoric rock carvings that have been found at the Amar Bhasha Dam site. The plan aims to preserve these carvings and inscriptions to be submerged in the water reservoir of the dam to set up a museum and promote cultural tourism in Gilgit-Baltistan, particularly in Chilas and the suburban areas. And of course, this is a very positive step, because Pakistan has a rich history and that needs to be preserved as much as possible. So a step in the right direction by Warda. Then going to the United Kingdom, ladies and gentlemen, where Prince Harry has lost a case against the British government over his security, to change the level of his personal security when he visits the United Kingdom. The youngest son, of course, of King Charles III launched legal action against the government after being told in February of 2020 that he will no longer be given the same degree of publicly funded protection when he is in Britain. Now, he did try to highlight this and to contest it, but to no avail. He has lost this case. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let's come to China, where China says it aims to put the first Chinese on the moon before the year 2030. This has been confirmed by the state broadcaster CCTV. Also, that China will coordinate and promote the application and development of its space station and manned lunar exploration this very year, that is in 2024. This has been confirmed by the China Manned Space Agency as well. So all the very best to our friendly neighborhood country of the People's Republic of China, and we hope to see it in space and discovering new planets and whatnot. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to end of today's news. We will see you inshallah tomorrow, which is a Friday, with news stories segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.